Welcome back to Secrets of Grindea. This is Zephyr, and we're going into the Temple of Seasons. So it's all frozen over, it's supposed to be spring. Now this run is focused on a two-handed, as heavy as I possibly can hit run. And this area is probably one of the best places in the game to farm. So just be aware of that. I'll show some farming places in a little bit. I found this battle to be noxious. There's wind gusts, and there's vines, and there's push wind, and then there's spikes all over. And with the two-handed, the spikes get in the way a lot because you don't have the attack speed to really get rid of the spikes as easily. So you have to rely on the smash ball to kind of get rid of some of the spikes. But with everything else that's going on, it just feels really painful to deal with this. So I've played this game quite a few times, but this is my first run dedicating only to the two-hander. I've done magic runs, I've done a lot of one-handed runs, especially the Shadow Clone. Really enjoy the Shadow Clone, though I don't know if it's the strongest build by any means. It's gone through some different iterations because this game was in early access for many, many, many years. There was one point in time where basic attacks were probably the strongest thing in the game, and they did kind of adjust that. So yeah, that hurt. I'm getting really stuck in here. Luckily, the spikes don't do a whole lot of damage. You can hit either of the Fae to deal damage to the health bar, but they run around and move, and you can't do that as easily. Yeah, so in speaking on the two-hander, so far I've felt the two-hander is a lot harder to play through the game as. Various quests, various bosses just feel a lot slower, and as much as I love the damage, especially as against some of the smaller enemies, being able to one-shot them or whatnot when you normally have to, I don't know, three-shot them, that can be good. And I'm probably not optimizing this build correctly, because I am going for pure attack damage and not a mixture of attack damage and attack speed. A little bit of attack speed would probably go really far on this build. But I'm just doing this build to kind of experiment and have fun. So just going for as much damage as possible. So I am wearing this hammer. It's the club. And later I will get an even worse hammer in the sense of attack speed. And I'll show that off. It took some farming. Let's skip that. So when you beat this mini-boss, you get the capacity to do this. And yeah. So we can now change the seasons. So something to note, when you do change the seasons, it will change what the room has for elites and powers. So in this room, it is ice, or, well, I mean, it's covered in ice. It's winter before I change it. That means the ice-related enemies have their powers increased. They get kind of an elite status. They glow like an elite in other areas. But that's the only way elites show up in this temple. And so you can deal with that by switching back and forth between things. So right now we've got autumn elites. So we'll get tornadoes, and we'll get the whirl strike, whirlwind attack on the other guys. I can't hit this. There we go. So there's a couple rooms like this in the dungeon, in the temple, where you do just have to fight a bunch of enemies, and you just have to keep going until they're dead. If you changed this to winter, then all these tornadoes would dissipate pretty quickly. But since elites give more experience, more money, and I believe have a slightly higher chance to drop items, I'm not sure if that corresponds with items only or with the cards, but yeah. Apparently struggling here to understand what to do. There we go. I did find it interesting that you cannot hit this from the low ground, so they are actually considering height or elevation in some fashion when you're swinging that. Just an observation, just an interesting little observation. So since it's spring or summer or whatever in this room, I guess summer, the enemies are elite that are green, so they spawn the thorns and such. Okay, now we can go over here. And now we have a shortcut. And we'll get that later. That treasure chest over there. Yeah, I'm blind at the time. At the time that I was recording this, I was just kind of blind. The thing you're supposed to do is turn it to autumn. There is a phasing button up there that I'm blind to when I was playing this. It's been a while since I played through this game, and I forgot how some of this works. And there's a lily pad, and there's ice, and then if you turn it to autumn, the water melts, and there's no lily pad. And I need to go touch that phase thing. There we go. Now that I've touched the phase thing, turning this to summer will trigger... Once you go to all the way to the right, this Hydra. Now, I have definitely struggled against this Hydra in the past. I find it to be a harder fight if you don't already know what you're doing. Generally, you want to kind of keep moving, and he lights the ground on fire. You can't do much about it other than switch the seasons. But the orb switchers do not generate instantly. You have to wait some time. Now this one can turn you into a block of ice if you get hit, or it just freezes the ground and makes it all slippery. Oops. Lucky dodge there. So there are a pair of shoes that give you traction on the ice. You can definitely play with those. It makes this fight a lot easier. I didn't do that for this run. I just kind of threw myself at it. Now, if you do autumn, it will spit mushroom clouds at you. They will do damage, and they will cause mushrooms on the ground, which will blind you. Eventually, the room will kind of fill up with mushrooms, fire, or ice, and that's when you want to start switching. So, I do find autumn to probably be the easiest to deal with. because being blind, you can kind of time stuff still. You just kind of listen to stuff. There's an audio cue right before they smash into you. Although, I'm still getting hit. If you can actually time your perfect block even when blind, that can be really helpful. So there, I actually timed my perfect block. Eventually, you'll probably have to switch it like I did. There's just too many mushrooms and spore clouds going on. There is no phase 2 to this. So as you just kill enemies, you kill the different heads, you will just slowly kind of win, I guess. We'll deal with more of whatever's left over, so prioritizing, say, the fire or the ice, it may help you specifically for dealing with the other two. It's really up to you. I really like the design of this boss because it does allow you to kind of figure out what you're strong against, your play style, what you're able to deal with. So, killed the Summer Hydra, and the Summer Orb is now gone. And I'm dead. Let's try it again. I would recommend focusing down the ice or the fire head first. Oh, and don't mess up your block because you will lose your shield. So everything has quite a bit of health in this game. And I don't have every card unlocked at this point in time either. I'm kind of going through this game relatively quicker than normal, although I'm still farming for some items and cards that feel necessary. So I don't have the ice skates, or whatever it is that helps you walk on the ice. I think it's ice skates. Maybe it's Cinderella shoes, something like that. And I don't have probably the highest level of character or the best gear, and I'm probably missing a bunch of damaging cards that would help me in various ways. Maybe an attack speed card or a magic damage card that would go with some of my other stuff. I'm not really using magic damage, but there is a talent that gives bonus physical attack based on your magic attack, which I actually found out was pretty good. Don't think I'm quite using it in this room yet. Something I find interesting, this is just a complete side tangent, related to subject matter, is a lot of games seem to struggle with the balance between two-handed and one-handed weapons. And I find that interesting. In, say, Diablo games, you might have some of the Diablo games or Diablo-likes where you might have struggles with some two-handed weapons, or just entire games where two-handed weapons just don't work, or classes that two-handed weapons don't really work with. And then you have other games where two-handed weapons are basically king, such as Dark Souls or Salt and Sanctuary. But yeah, anyway, it's just kind of a thought that I've noticed it in a lot of games where that seems to be the case. Anyway, we beat the boss, so I'm going to end the video here. And thanks for watching.